Great. Hey, so welcome to the Farming for the Future Working Group subgroup meeting for beginning farmer and ranchers. Yeah, really happy y'all are here today. We going to be sharing with each other the work that we're doing on beginning farmer and rancher support. And we've got a really great guest that we're expecting, Catherine Minthorn, with the technical, she's a technical assistant specialist with the Intertribal Ag Council for Northwest Oregon. But first, I think we got some new faces here and want everyone to get to know each other. And so let's start with some introductions. You can share your name, pronouns, and the organization you work for. I use he, him pronouns, and I'll kick it over to Crystal.
Hi, I'm Crystal, she, her pronouns. I am working with Tegan this summer at the Small Farms program as her intern, and then going to be continuing on as a student employee with her for my last year at OSU in horticulture and the horticulture therapy option. Working mostly doing the veteran farmer tours this summer, but a little bit of agritourism too.
And go ahead and just pass it to the next person.
Jeffrey.
Hi, everybody. Jeffrey here, he, him pronouns with Rogue Farm Corps. And I see my colleague Matt just signed on. I'll pass to you, Matt, since I just said your name. Name, pronoun, and organization.
Oh, okay. Matt Gordon, he, him pronouns, and Rogue Farm Corps. I'm the education director. I don't know who's gone and who hasn't. Sorry, I'm late.
No
Tanya,
problem.
have you gone, Tanya?
No, I'll go. Tanya, Oregon Tilth, she, her pronouns, and I will pass to Andrea.
Hey there, I'm Andrea. I also go by Andy. I'm with the High Desert Food and Farm Alliance. I use she, her pronouns, and I'll pass over to Jessica.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica, she, her pronouns. I'm working with Chemeketa Community College and OSU Extension in the Mid-Willamette Valley on a BFRDP grant. And I will pass it to Nellie.
Hi folks, Nellie McAdams. I'm with Oregon Ag Trust and my pronouns are she, her. I will pass it over to Dee.
I think we can hear
Hey
you.
everyone, my name is Dee. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Pronouns, Oregon Food Bank. I'm on my phone out in the field right now, so it's hard to see who hasn't gone and who's on the call, but whoever would like to
go. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi there, I'm Kathy Fergie. I work with U.S. Department of Agriculture, Natural Resources Conservation Service as Tribal Liaison, Outreach Coordinator, and Beginning Farmer Rancher Coordinator. And I will pass to Shin.
Hi y'all, I use she, her pronouns, and I am the network coordinator for OCFSN. And I will pass it on to Caitlin. We're just doing name, pronoun, organization.
Yeah, hi, I'm Caitlin. I work up at the North Coast Food Web in Astoria, Oregon, and use she, her pronouns.
We got a couple folks left. Amy.
Hi, everybody. Amy Gilroy with Oregon Department of Agriculture. I use she, her pronouns. I work in the marketing and development program and working on local and domestic market development for producers and food manufacturers.
And then Nicole, I think, is our last. You there, Nicole? Okay. well, we'll just move forward and yeah. So thanks everyone for being here. I want to just part of what we do here in these working groups is just make sure everyone's up to date on things that are happening in the broader network. So I want to just provide a couple of updates on what OCFSN has been up to, and some of the other subgroups have been up to in the Farming for the Future working group. So just a couple things on the OCFSN side. We had a really excellent gathering last month in Central Oregon in the Bend region. And Sisters, we did a tour of Ag Connect and had folks in that region come out to the Roundhouse's Pine Meadow Ranch Center for Arts and Ecology, or Arts and Agriculture. And yeah, that was really fun. We got to connect with folks in the region. We heard from experts on the issues that producers are facing in Central Oregon on water issues and the different junior and senior rights of the irrigation districts there, and how that's causing some serious struggles for regional and community focused producers. So that was very fun. We got to hang out, we did some tours, we got to have dinner. So that was all really fun. We look forward to doing more of those regional gatherings across the state. We're doing one next week in Portland. If you're in the Portland area and haven't gotten an invite, reach out. Then we're also going to be doing one in Southern Oregon in the future. We'll do one on the coast, North Coast. And yeah, so these are just getting us ramped up for 2023. We're going to do a big OCFSN gathering. So we're getting back into meeting in person, and it's been really nice and energizing. Of also important note, of the OCFSN disaster relief grant is complete. The final funding has been distributed to the farmers, and we have a brief report. 108 eligible farmers and ranchers received grant funding through 3 rounds, and the total funded was just over 1.4 million. Some money was used for admin for OCFSN and the admin of the grant, but the rest of the money got to farmers and ranchers. There are actually more requests than there was funding available. Very successful. 104 of those awards were in English, 4 in Spanish, 41 out of 108 were BIPOC, and majority of folks were located in the Willamette Valley, but a good amount in Southern Oregon and Central Oregon, and a few in Eastern Oregon on the coast. Just a huge range of reasons why farmers were requesting support for disaster relief, all the way from, purchasing hay due to drought conditions to loss of animals or loss of infrastructure due to weather events in 2021. And some of the testimonials were just really moving from farmers. I think this is a really successful and important program. So yeah, I just wanted to share with you all that has wrapped for the year.
And Andrew, can I add something really quick?
Yeah, of course.
So I think a big part of this too is we'll end up writing a final report that we'll share with the network. This way folks can, can go as in depth as they want in some of the feedback that we got, because I think there are really 3 main takeaways that we want folks within the network, and also ODAP and all the other folks who have worked on this, is that, OCFSN ended up managing this grant because we needed it, and farmers and ranchers needed it because of the disasters last year. But we're really going to try to focus on supporting and advocating for farmers to build resilience into their businesses, rather than what this grant was, which was disaster relief. So dealing with the aftermath, right? And yeah, and I think the overall goal is, like, how do we, as a network, continue to make Oregon agriculture more resilient? And how do we share back all the information, all the examples of ways that, the current resources are inaccessible to a lot of folks? Because there were quite a few situations that, we came across that I think could be addressed differently.
Great. Any other updates that I'm missing, Shin, on the OCFSN side?
I think the
Oh,
only,
sorry, I see Amy's hands up too. We'll get to that after.
yeah, I think the final update is we've been, if you look at the opportunities page on the website, we've essentially made that open source. So there is a Google Sheet that anyone within the network or just anyone who's working within food systems in Pacific Northwest can access. So that's just one way that we can continue to try to streamline communications and opportunities so that it's more visible and easier for folks who are managing communications within their regions to be able to see all that.
Great. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, just to follow up on the disaster relief funding. Andrew, you mentioned that you had more applications than you had funding. I was just curious were those applicants able to, do you know if they were able to follow up with ODAP or with Department of Agriculture to ultimately receive the funding, or what was the outcome there?
So I can answer that. So everyone who was eligible for the grant were not eligible for ODAP. So even if, or some folks who we were trying to serve were folks who were not eligible for ODAP. And
okay.
Of the folks who applied, I think there were only 2 or 3 who weren't actually eligible because their losses weren't from 2021. And everyone who was eligible received either full or partial funding. And so I would say whatever was remaining, if we weren't able to fully fund them, they didn't qualify for ODAP. So that's part of the gathering of the information and cleaning up of the report so that we can share that back in a pretty concise way of what were the specific situations that were kind of falling between the cracks.
Okay. Yeah, I know there's quite a bit of funding left in the ODAP budget. So I think once you have that report, it should be really helpful. I'm sure you'll be sharing that probably with Alan, but if not, if there's anything I can do, let me know.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I know Lauren Gwynn's been in communication with Alan, but I'll connect back with you as well. Thank you.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah, it's a big deal that disaster relief is pretty exciting. That was able to get to the people and the farmers. So just some overviews of what's happening with the Farming for the Future working group. We've been meeting, the climate resilience group has been meeting, identifying the purpose and the objectives of that subgroup, thinking about different projects to work on. The farm and land viability subgroup had its first meeting in July, and it's kind of working through what the content and the kind of focus of that subgroup will be. We had some good conversations about the intersections between land and farm business viability. And we've kind of been polling that group of folks to see the kind of the purpose and the scope of that group. So that's a work in progress. And I think actually to help with this subgroups kind of just getting a little bit of a foundation of a purpose of why we're all coming together, I'll be doing a similar poll for this group to kind of share a draft purpose of why we come together, and then some of the objectives that we're trying to get to as a group. So look for that in the future. We also I'm updating the website, and we're gonna have like an overview of the full working group, so folks can look at, kind of see all the different projects and ideas that have been thrown around in the different subgroups, and the kind of overarching background for this work that we're all collaborating on. Finally, we're beginning the discussions for a working group gathering in the winter. So if folks are interested in helping plan that content or any of the logistics for that, let me know. Send me an email, and we can include you in that planning discussion. One final thing. Heidi isn't able to join us today, Heidi at OSU Extension, but she wants everyone to know that Monday, September 12th is Small Farm School. And if you're, please share that with your networks and register. And yeah, I can dig up that link here when we start talking. I don't see Catherine, so I think we're going to jump to updates and just want to hear from you all what you're working on. We've got some new folks in the room, and yeah, what's challenging y'all? What's going on with your BFR programs? And I'll just open it up to the floor. Or I can pick someone to share.
I can share, Andrew.
Great.
So at Oregon Ag Trust, we have just posted a job description for an education program director. I can pop that in the chat here. That person would be doing outreach, especially around educating farmers and ranchers and their service providers about working lands easements and how those can be helpful to their businesses, as well as really leaning into their use for succession planning. And so trying to increase the number of farmers and ranchers who are reaching out for support for intergenerational transition, whether that's to family members or non-family members, and making sure that their attorneys and their accountants are able to support them in that process, and especially looking at appraisers and their role in easement transactions. So our work tends to focus a little bit more on landowners, a little bit more on older, a little bit more on larger family-owned operations. We're also, this person would also be doing some public education to help with some of our grassroots advocacy efforts. And those efforts are mainly around funding for easements. So I'll post that job description right up here. We are also hiring for a farmland program director position. It's not squarely in the beginning farmer realm, so I'll just mention it here, but I can answer any questions about that too.
I can give a quick update on something we're working on at Tualatin SWCD. We do not have a farm incubator program like East Multnoma's Headwaters, and that's been something we've talked about whether or not we want to do. I think I've said in meetings before, right now our approach has been to support other farms in Washington County who have those programs, and we have grants with Adelante Mujeres, Stoneboat Farm, actually it's their program's called Compo, and then one at Working Theory Farm. And one thing that we've carved out in our budget that was just approved in July for this fiscal year is some additional, not really grant funding, but sort of more direct funding to those, we're calling it like a graduate program of our incubator conservation education grants. And this would be like a way to sustain some of those farms that have already gone through our grant program and are either bridging to another grant or just a way to extend some of that funding. So this would be for materials related to the incubator farms, and they can just apply directly. It's not like a open solicitation, but money in the budget that's just directly to those farms that have graduated from that. One thing I'm looking for as I'm kind of building the sideboards to that are, maybe, and I've of course asked the farms in Washington County that have, would benefit from this, but to hear from other folks that support beginning farmers and beginning farmer programs, what kind of things would be helpful to consider for the district to fund in that kind of program. So send those ideas to me.
I've been working with Tegan this summer with the OSU Extension, and we have put together the Veteran Farm Tour series. And the first tour is next Wednesday, the 24th in Albany. And then there's 3 more, and I'll post that link to register so you could pass it on to any veteran farmers. It's for veterans, put on by veteran farmers. And then I've also been updating the Veteran Farmer Resource Guide, and it has stuff from veteran preference grants and loans for farmers. And then also veteran farms that offer training that are Pacific Northwest, like Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Northern California. And so when that's finished, I can send that out as well. But I will post the link to the veteran farm tour in a second.
I can go ahead and go. So the Oregon USDA Beginning Farmer Rancher Program is looking at our plans for 2023. One of the things that we did in 2022 that was really successful was a series of little workshops called Beginning Farmer Rancher in the Know. They were 2 hours in length, and each one gave, they were held each quarter, and each of the 4 agencies, Farm Service Agency, Natural Resources Conservation Service, Risk Management, and Rural Development, got a chance to showcase what they were working on in that particular that particular quarter. And then for the first hour, and then the next hour was a opportunity to do breakouts with each of the agencies. So we're looking at doing that for 2023, changing it up a little bit. We didn't change the times, just had them in the middle of the morning. So we're going to change the time frame. And so any suggestions you might have on something like that would be great. And you can just email me. The other thing that we're looking at are events. And, you know, there's obvious events like the Oregon State Small Farms Conference, but maybe there's some events out that are less typical that we might not hear about that would be good for us to be at, especially events that may be happening within the Hispanic community. You know, the Portland Black farmers have done Back to the Roots pre-COVID. Hopefully they'll be doing that again. But anything like that that may be out there that might not be on our radar. You know, we're good about being at Cattlemen's Association and dairy farmers, et cetera, but we need to be better about looking at some of those new for us audiences. So thanks.
I can go next with the Changing Hands program within Rogue Farm Corps. We are getting into our busy season. We generally try to target our programming for the farmers like off season because we do sort of business support work with the farmers. Our farm launch program is about to launch its second cohort. Applications will open this Friday. I'm sure you all will get an email about that, but if you could keep your eye out and then share it, that would be much appreciated. Special shout out to Kathy. Kathy, last year, we tracked where people were hearing about our farm launch program, and a lot of people cited you as the source. So thank you for that, and hopefully we get that again. And then our Changing Hands workshops, which have historically been in person, moved virtual during COVID. They're going to be in person again this year. We're going to do one sort of on the east side, one on the west side of the Cascades. We're dialing in locations. Those will be day-long workshops in February. An opportunity to bring land seekers and landholders together to network. They're going to be a little bit different than how they have been in the past. Once again, you'll get more information about that. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Yeah, some exciting new things happening on our end.
I can go next just to kind of keep within Rogue Farm Corps for a sec. Jeffrey, did you mention, sorry if I missed it, did you mention the Midsummer Gathering that you organized?
No, I did not.
So Jeffrey, you want to just explain that real quick?
Sure, yeah, we were in partnership with Headwaters. We put on a little really like casual and just fun gathering for beginning farmers in the Portland area. We had about 30 people come out. This was a week ago, I believe. Yeah, a week ago today. We had about 30 people come out, and we just, we fed them. It was, an afternoon in the shade, playing some games, trivia, just getting to network and relax a little bit. I thought it was super fun. Been getting good feedback from the farmers who participated. And yeah, maybe it turns into an annual tradition. But I don't know, Matt, if you had something specific you wanted to flag about it.
No, that's it. Just want to share that out. Yeah, huge shout out to Jeffrey for organizing that, and Headwaters for hosting. Let's see, in the kind of beginning farmer training program, internship, apprenticeship work that we do, we programs are running in the Rogue Valley and in the Portland area this year. I think we have about 16 interns and apprentices total, and we have maybe 10 additional folks who are joining for some or all of our educational events, farm tours, discussions, and classes. Looking ahead to next year, we are moving all of our full season and positions into waged employment. This year, I think it's about half and half wages versus stipends. And as we look towards that, a lot of our host farms or potential host farms are, struggling to think about, like, how am I going to afford this, right? Does it make sense for me to host an apprentice or intern? They're an entry level, maybe, especially if they're entry level, new to farming. It's kind of a gamble whether it's going to actually work. Like, am I actually going to lose money if this person isn't able to pick stuff up quick enough? So we have been sort of looking around to see if there are ways to offset funding for paying people wages during their training positions. And I've stumbled across some programs in Colorado and Arizona and New Mexico, which you all may be aware of. I'm not sure, but each of those states have a program where it's they have agricultural workforce development programming, and they have state funding allocated for offsetting some of those the costs to employers for training beginning agricultural workers. So I'll just put this link to some of these in the chat in case you want to check them out. I'm really curious about exploring something like this for Oregon. And I want to see if anyone else is also interested in it, and see if it might make sense here, because so far our other research hasn't really turned up clear opportunities for funding to help offset wages. So that is a really tricky place for us to be in right now, where host farms want to host. They also need help on their farms. They want to mentor, but they have to make it work for their businesses. And on the other hand, we want to hold, people to, like, employment law, which basically says if you have people helping on your farm, you need to be paying them wages. So both of these things, all these things are true, and we're trying to kind of make it work for everybody. Other than that, we are looking at potentially offering host farm the opportunity for host farms to work with us in any location in Oregon next year. Obviously, we won't be running in-person events all over the state. We'll still be in Portland and the Rogue Valley, but we would offer a series of online events to folks who weren't in those locations, and maybe a few sort of weekend intensives in person where folks could travel. The other thing I'll just mention real quickly, we have in the past couple of years offered short season internships which usually are just summer months, say June through August. And we are trying to figure out whether we're going to still kind of have that option or just kind of simplify our programming. We haven't had a whole lot of traction with host farmers offering those positions. So yeah, curious on feedback you all may have, whether those are something that you hear from farmers that they want to host short season positions or not. It does work well for students who are in college, but so we have a lot of interest on the applicant side, but not as much on the host farm side. But maybe if we go statewide, that will change. And yeah, I think I'll leave it there for now.
I can jump in. Matt, when you were just talking, Willamette Workforce Partnership, I don't know how far their reach is, but we worked with them to get salary for vineyard stewards as we put them through training. They have some state funded dollars that they were able to help us with that. It was a project I worked on the last few years. Ivoy is the nonprofit that they awarded that money to pay for salaries. It's a great program. So I can pop names and stuff in the chat after I get done doing my update, but it might be worth contacting them if you're looking for some help with salaries. So updates, I'm working with Chemeketa and OSU Extension in the Mid-Willamette Valley to develop an incubator farm program for Marion, Yamhill, Polk counties, in addition to offering some more training for aspiring and beginning farmers. Our biggest challenge right now is we heard this week we did not get the funding that was going to move us forward. So we're in reassessment mode, thinking about resubmitting next spring and looking at some other funding opportunities. So we're probably slowed down about 6 months now, and we're going to maybe rethink. Part of what happened with the design of our program is we don't have land on campus, and that was kind of a red flag to reviewers. Even though we found partner farms to provide land as incubator space, they thought that was more of a risk. So we're going to meet with our partner site farmers that were willing to do this and maybe rethink how we can make sure that that's sustainable and fully accessible to participants. So we're kind of going back into some redesign and reassessment in the next few weeks to figure out what we'll move forward with. Hopefully the next time this group meets, I'll have an update in terms of what direction we're going. So, and I think that's about it for me. I'm super excited to hear about the veteran farm tour, Crystal and Tegan. That was one focus of our program that we were really hoping to support. We probably had more interest from aspiring veteran farmers than some of our other groups. And so we're really hoping that we can get something going for them in the Mid-Willamette Valley too. And I'm so happy to see you guys are working with Ben from Dauntless. He's fantastic. He's been on our steering committee for our project. So super excited. I've been spreading the word for that one. So that's all for me. Yep.
I have a few updates for some of the policy packages that ODA is currently putting together to prepare for the 23-25 biennium. And so these are the policy packages that are put together or assembled every biennium, usually around this time of the year. And right now we have there's I think 4 that I think might be the most relevant to this group. And of course, these are not yet full legislative concepts, but they are basically our policy asks for the legislature for general funded programming. And I think a few of them are actually previous asks that came out of the governor's budget that weren't funded, that might be relevant to this group. So I just wanted to quickly give people an update on that. So one of them is a diversity in agriculture grant. This was something that was in the 21-23 governor's budget that ODA, that was actually recommended through the Racial Justice Council and came down to ODA as a concept that would help producers of color with market access, development, food safety, and a lot of the technical aspects that they need to get their farms up and running or expand their markets. So that's coming back in the ODA budget, and that's a request of $1 million in general funds. And so this would hopefully mitigate a lot of the capital barriers for some smaller farmers if it were to be funded. So I wanted to mention that one. The other one is the Farm to School Infrastructure Grant, which is fairly unique when it comes to looking at state level or even federal funding. It's available in a disbursement grant. It's not a reimbursement grant. So, the overarching goal with that program is to help remove some of those barriers that low capital producers may have to accessing some of these funds. So the request for that is to actually move that program from the Department of Education over to the ODA budget to manage. And that would, the request right now from that is $500,000, and that's up from $250,000 from this current biennium. There's also more meat processing infrastructure. You've probably heard a lot about the new, or I guess it's the reinstated state meat inspection program that ODA just received approval for their plan from the USDA, which means that we'll have a lot more, potentially have a few more initially USDA to standards with the USDA inspected facilities, even though those will be ODA inspected facilities for meat processing, with the idea of giving us more local facility infrastructure and helping some of the smaller ranchers out with some of the throughput they need for their smaller businesses. So that is coming back as well. We had $2 million in this biennium for that grant program, and we received over $14 million in requests for funding for that. And so I think the general fund request going forward for 23-25 will be $5 million. And then there's also a couple of other, we're putting in a request for one full-time staff member for local and domestic market development. So that would be working on the team that I'm on right now. And that would again be helping with move some of these grant programs forward. And there's also another, this is something that happens every biennium actually, because the federal, the Food Safety Modernization Act funding that is run through our program as well. So that will also come in through ODA with a request for 5 full-time employees to help with training and technical assistance for producers that need to come into compliance under that. So I'll drop the full list of the policy option packages that are drafted right now. Again, these are in draft form and their legislative concepts haven't been fully developed, but just in case you want to look at any of the other ones listed there.
I can go if anyone else would like to. Hey everyone, Dee again with the Pathways to Farm program through Oregon Food Bank. And yeah, pretty much just deep in the season right now and just supporting people through whatever's coming up, like cool bots breaking down, etc. But what I can share in terms of updates is that we are getting a sense of who would like to continue farming at Unity Farm, which is the main farm site next to the food bank on 33rd in Portland here. And yeah, figuring out who would like to continue farming on site and what land options we have to offer prospective new members. And yeah, new cohort member applications will open in October is my my goal. And then we should be able to welcome new members into the program in November. So there's that just to share with your networks. And the other thing that's been really exciting in the program is we've been able to extend mental health benefits that the employees of the Oregon Food Bank receive to the farmers in our program. And this is just like a continuation of figuring out ways to have more wraparound services for our farmers. As many of y'all know, farming doesn't usually come with benefits. And so we're always figuring out ways that we can support the farmers beyond just farming, but just as whole human beings too. So I was really excited about that and the work with our HR department to make that possible. And then semi-related, but a little bit more of a land access opportunity. Happy to, it's just a PDF I got, but this is
an opportunity from Matt Shipke, Land Legacy Program Manager with East Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District. And it is a lease option, 5-year lease, half-acre of farmland at no rental cost, with a preference given to BIPOC farmers and folks who have historically been marginalized. So really, really interesting land lease opportunity specifically for BIPOC growers, and happy to share that with anybody that's interested. I've already shared that amongst the farmers in my cohort, or in the cohort I support. And yeah, just wanted to get that opportunity out as well.
I can jump in with a couple updates. So I'm with the High Desert Food and Farm Alliance. We're out in Central Oregon, and I'm kind of taking on projects that my predecessor left for me, and building off of those and looking into the future. So I think if any of you were here at one of the last meetings, but update on our on-farm efficiency grants, which was really cool. We got a lot of interest. We got more than 30, maybe 40 applications for a pool of funds that just was not big enough for that. We ended up awarding almost $50,000 to 14 farmers and ranchers, things like gravity feeders, root washers, and just generally, we got some really great feedback that these were really unattainable, potentially unattainable things without this additional support. And we're looking to try and continue potentially other grant opportunities like this into the future. So looking for opportunities on how to do that, potential funders. But that was really great feedback. I think it was good to know that we were listening to our farmers and ranchers and how to make these grants more accessible. It is a pretty small grant, but it was very exciting to hear direct feedback from them. Our mentorship program, which was launched this year, we've made 5 connections between farmers and ranchers and beginning farmers and more experienced ones. Some feedback was that 10 hours wasn't enough to make this big. We had a 10-hour limit for those connections, so 10 hours wasn't enough. And some topics that they delved into was even like self-worth and making sure that you value your own mental health. And that was fun to see that that's something that these connections have valued in those conversations. Upcoming, we're looking to do some more workshops in collaboration with the OSU Extension out here. Things like pollinator habitats potentially, and business planning. So that's in development and looking forward to seeing where that'll go, as well as more networking nights, because it's really important to make those connections between our farmers and ranchers out here. I think that sometimes there's gaps in having those connections and relationships really helps in taking down some of those barriers. Yeah, thanks.
Great. Those are some awesome updates.
Andrew, is it all right if I chime in?
Yes, please.
I apologize to everybody for being late. It's so good to see you all. Every time I come to this space, it really does offer this like uplifting, which in August, like this time of year, oh my goodness, we all need a little bit of that. So thank you for offering it. In risk of being redundant, because I'm sure Crystal mentioned a few things we're working on. I'm going to highlight some things and I'll throw them in the chat box. One from Heidi in particular, Heidi Nordyke, was Small Farm School happening. I'll put the link there. Hopefully we're sharing that with everybody. Also is a build off to Small Farm School, which happens in Clackamas in September. We are planning and putting together Small Farm Conference for February. And if you have heard of particular topics or anything that you think would be really relevant for us to address, or you even want to partner on something at the conference, please reach out. Let us know. We're pulling that together and are optimistic to be in person and really seeing that come alive again. In addition to the military veteran farm tour series, I'll throw that link in if Crystal didn't. Really a lot of farm tours I've been involved with recently, and I'm so grateful that that is back in action and that in-person networking. Andrea, you're right, that networking piece is just so essential, and that's what I've been hearing over and over again. And I'm also learning that summer farm tours are challenging for attendance for a whole slew of reasons. So I'm looking forward to doing some fall and winter as well. And would love to collaborate and think about other parts of the state where it's not as commonly happening. In addition, FOF and OSU, we Friends of Family Farmers and Heidi are looking at putting together a panel for medicinal herb processing and drying. This has been a request that's been coming just across the state. We need more resources around medicinal herb production as well as just processing and drying. We're struggling a little bit to find people to serve on the panel. So if you have any resources, or if you know of some farms, small scale farms that are doing their own processing, let us know. In particular, we're interested in infrastructure. Thank you, Tanya, Rise Up Remedies. I'll make sure they're on our list. Yeah, Ashala for sure. They've been amazing to work with. So yeah, we're just, thank you, Dee. I'll reach out. We certainly are looking forward to growing the processing piece of the puzzle and the resources there. Okay, in addition, Small Farms Program, we're going to be pushing out the Oregon Farm and Ranch Anti-Racism and Equity Program. If this sounds new to anybody, raise your hand and I'll send you some private messages about this. This was a project that was collaborative between several organizations, including this working group. And we're ready to really start to roll this out publicly and widely this fall. And so as we do this, there's opportunities for those in this group to be involved with coming to discussion groups and cohort groups. Many of us have been working through the curriculum, and I would love to host a discussion group within this group around that curriculum. Those of us who've been going through it as individuals, also sharing how our organizations are using it and thinking about how we can really have this be this like cohesive Oregon program. It's free to participate in, but we've sort of been in this pilot stage. And I think a lot of the organizations who are going to be leading discussion groups needed to get comfortable with what that meant and looked like. And I think there's a comfort there now. So anyhow, just want to let you know that's coming in the fall, and hopefully we'll be engaging a lot of farmers across the state in the program. Just as a refresher, it's like over 40 hours of work in the program. So it's not a small little quick dip. It's definitely an immersive experience, which is why I think it really requires the support of cohort models or groups or buddies coming together. So potentially helping to facilitate that with our organizations. I know Crystal is deep in it right now and has been charging ahead. So that's been fun to get feedback. Let's see. I think that's it. I just also want to thank Jessica for sharing the feedback on why you didn't get that funding. I think there's several projects where we're thinking about there's a land-based piece to it. And I think oftentimes we go, well, if we can get the funding, then we can just sort those pieces out, or we have possibilities. So it was really helpful to hear that funders are like, no, you got to have a solid lease or solid ownership for that. So I really appreciate anybody who shares feedback on why you didn't get funding and particular reasons. That's so helpful for this group and all of us moving forward. All right, I'll stop, but thank you for that. I'll put some links in the chat. Good to see you all.
Great. lots of stuff happening. Thank you all for being here in August. And programming note that I really appreciate you all being here and sharing this. And with the recording, I got lots of emails of folks who were interested but unable to attend. So it, even just sharing and these resources out and the recording is reaching more folks in our network. So thanks for that. Anybody else have anything to share? Otherwise, we can jump into some other updates on programming and I've got some questions for you all regarding some of the things I've been sharing with the broader network. Okay, great. So have anyone applied for that in creating impactful programming for farmers and ranchers project that Mary Halblieb is putting together with OSU? And is that something that is moving forward with folks? Is that, yeah. Any update there? Just you're applying and waiting to hear back, or have you started your cohort?
I think we hear back at the beginning of September.
Okay, great. Yeah, I look forward to hearing about that, how that's working for folks, and sharing back some things that folks are learning in that. Awesome. Just a couple updates. I've been reviewing the brochure and the story map that we have from previous BFR working group work, and we'll be updating that. I'll send that out with the notes, links to those, and folks have a chance to look through and just send me any updates if your information is incorrect in those brochures. We'll be tabling at Small Farm School OCFSN, and I want to have some updated brochures for that and make sure those get out to folks. So that's moving forward. Yeah, as far as the map, some questions is if we want to go a little deeper into a mapping project. I'm hesitant to go into it in this meeting. I think that there's some really great examples like Nellie, what you've done with Oates story map on your land protection program or priorities. Is a really good example of a high quality story map that tells a story based on different regions of why and how you're prioritizing these areas for land protection. And I think potentially in the future, if folks are interested, a BFR story map could go into telling the stories of beginning farmers and ranchers across the state and going to the different regions and highlighting some challenges and some successes for those different farmers. And yeah, I think that's a future conversation. We did have and then folks interrupt me if you have something to add. We did have a meeting a while back with some folks who are interested in discussing cooperatives, farm cooperatives, and just kind of checking in and seeing if there's resources missing or lacking in Oregon for supporting folks who are interested in exploring a cooperative farming model. What are the benefits? What are resources we can pull from other states and other organizations who do this work that can then be distributed in a way to help Oregon producers? I've been gathering, folks shared some really good resources in that meeting. I've been gathering up other ones I've been researching and put together a shared drive with some resources that we can share out with the group. I think that's the first kind of really easy step. I know several of those folks who were in that conversation are here. If you all want to share kind of thoughts on maybe ways that we can be better supporting those interested in cooperatives, takeaways from the meeting, is this a direction that we want to keep going in the working group?
I can share a little bit. Yeah, it was great to be a part of that discussion. Also, apologies for my location if it's a little loud. But yeah, was just I think one of my main takeaways from the program or from the meeting was that it would be really helpful to have a
just some sort of like a map or like process for like if people are interested in this, here's like a resource list of like how to get going, and just like some tools around that. That was like one of the main takeaways I got, was like if we could figure out as a working group how to just pool existing resources and have a little bit more. There were some that were shared too, of like different types of cooperative models too. There's a lot of customization and specificity to everyone's unique situation. So yeah, I think that was like the main thing. It's just like, how would a group of individuals or an individual seeking to become part of a greater collective, how would they get plugged in, and what's existing, and how could we create a resource to help bridge the gap a little bit within all that.
Great. So yeah, I think we'll call together another meeting, and I like that idea of a map or a process, like helping folks kind of step through step by step how that would work. And I think folks brought up some good points. You know, there's other ways of organizing a shared business and different LLCs and these things. So providing those resources. And I know y'all at Rogue Farm Corps have interacted with the Northwest Center for Cooperative Development, and it sounds like there's maybe some opportunities there, but they also might not be quite up to speed in supporting. So there might be some help needed there as well. Cool.
That was going to be my suggestion, is have you checked with the center, and do you know what's available from them?
Yeah, I know they presented right at one of Rogue Farm Corps'.
Yeah, they presented at one of our Changing Hands workshops last year and did a really good job. But they also kind of they shared that they were still relatively new to applying their services to farm businesses, and I think all the specific challenges that that come along with that. They also did recently, I don't know how recently, but they relatively recently hire on a new staff member who has worked with supporting like farm collectives, farm cooperatives in California in the past. So things might be different now. I think it's, certainly worth keeping a line open with them and just, keeping them in the fold here.
Tanya.
I suggested a track on this topic at the Small Farms Conference, and just because it seemed like there was interest. And so I don't know if that will move forward, but if other folks think that that could be a good topic and are wanting to get involved in organizing that, I think that if there was some momentum that could happen. I imagined at least some part of it maybe bringing in some farmers from out of the area that are running collectives or cooperatives to kind of share their stories, because I always feel like that's a kind of compelling perspective to hear more, like both the kind of the more I don't know, academic or professional perspective, but also the farm perspective. So I guess if you're interested in that, let me know and I can see how much I can move it forward.
Dee, I talked to Sarah Cross, and she mentioned that the Pathways program at one point there was a push to end in a cooperative with some of the folks that were going through that program, and sounded like there was a lot of important learning that happened in that process. Maybe that would be an interesting component to a panel.
Yeah, just messaged Tanya and I was like, yes, interested, would like to
Cool.
be a part of that. And several of the farmers in the Pathways program are within their own collectives too. So there's definitely a lot of like learning and sharing within the group.
Great.
So I'm not sure what happened to Catherine.
No
She
problem.
got interrupted, but there are 2 tribal cooperatives in Oregon. One is group of tribal allottees in Harney County, the Innu Deep group. And then Catherine herself is actually part of, she's part of a bunch of chicken farmers called the Res Chicks. So they've been going on at least 2 years, maybe 3. They started during COVID. So got some examples there.
Nice. Yeah, we'll continue to invite Catherine to these meetings, and we can hear from her at a future one. But that's interesting. We'll reach out on those models that she's engaged in. Okay. Tegan, did you want to give any update on the OFREEP? I think I saw you shared a link.
Yeah, I think I did that in my intro. I jumped ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, just mainly that you'll all be hearing from me to see if we can come together within the context of this group to discuss it. Also, just like a gentle prod that if you haven't engaged with it yet, that this really is something that this group put a lot of time and effort into, and has really proven to be engaging. And also, if anybody wants to buddy up in terms of thinking through, accountability to move through it, let me know. I know that several of us are engaged within it, within our organizations and otherwise. Also, I do have several community groups that are engaging with it, farmers as well. And so far the feedback has been pretty good, bar the fact that people just kind of feel like it's school because it's like an online curriculum, and that they're really having to shift their attitude about that. And so that's sort of the importance of, there's a lot of information and it's really important to digest and get through. And yet, we have to work through that narrative or the resistance that sometimes comes when something is in that format. So potentially we'll be thinking through what it means to engage with this content in different ways. However, there was just a lot of time working with the consultant that really thought that self-paced and working through content in this matter and really just digesting it was the best, although not the easiest, because it's not easy work by any means. So yeah, if you just have any questions, or again, if you want to think about what this could look like within the context of your group, your farmers, your locale, reach out. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's what I have for our agenda today. One important thing, I'd like to have this meeting put on a calendar with a regular recurring meeting, so we're not reaching out with polls, annoying polls to you all constantly. And I think we're kind of on a third Wednesday or third Thursday of the month quarterly. If anyone has issues with that, let me know and I can send out some options. But I think I might try to just go with that and then get it on our calendars for the year, so then folks are not getting bombarded with annoying polls.
Hey everybody, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yay! This is Sarah. Love listening to all this stuff. I have some things I would love to follow up on. One of them is I would really like to have a chance to learn more about those efficiency grants that you guys did in Central Oregon. I'm also very interested in looking at what we can develop in Oregon that would provide that kind of financial support. We did some investigation into a community development block grant model that was implemented in Washington that was basically kind of like forgivable loans, but became grants for infrastructure stuff. And I just think it's a resource that really we need a lot. So I would love to learn more about that and maybe think about what we might want to try to get in Oregon to make that more widespread. That was just one thing I wanted to mention. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being here, Sarah, even on the road. Appreciate it. Okay. Well, I don't want to hold us over. If I know we're all very busy, and get a little bit of a 20 minutes back in your day might be nice. But if anyone has any final thoughts or anything they'd like to to add, we can do that, or we can say talk to you next time.
I just had one thought and question I want to throw out, and we can circle back to another time, but I just know, labor retention and labor continues to be just a significant challenge. And I know there's been discussion among various organizations and spaces about having one centralized job listing posting site. And I'm just more and more feeling like there might be some urgency or reason to prioritize that. Mainly because, people who are looking to hire end up, there's just no consistency. And I think we know that. So just throwing out there, Matt, yeah, I'm not sure if there was any momentum with that, but if anyone has an update, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I can fill you all in on what I remember from the conversations I've had about it. I brought it up with FOF and had a meeting with I think Natalie about it, and the Oregon Farm Link Job Board is a website based board, and I think maybe the most centralized thing we have in Oregon for like agricultural related job postings at this point, as far as I know. And I was interested in potentially, like, as an addition to that, could we have like an email version? It's just kind of like an email listserv base. It's real simple. And we kind of went back and forth on the pros and cons of having sort of like two separate places, or do we want to just really kind of do more outreach around the Oregon Farm Link Job Board? Maybe make it a little bit more fully functional. Like, could you, sign up to get notifications from it when new things are posted, that kind of thing. So kind of come into your email box, but don't have to sign up for a email list or another thing. So, and then I had a meeting with Shin about the OCFSN job posting site of the email newsletter that goes out, as well as the website at OCFSN. And that, just to clarify, is, as I understand it, just for OCFSN member organization job postings, not for general food system job postings in Oregon. So that was the clarification there, because I was curious, like, oh, this seems like really functional. Does it make sense to kind of, post all kinds of job postings here? And I think the answer at this point is no, it's just OCFSN member organization job postings. I think that's where it's at. I think yes, it's sort of in limbo right now, I guess. Happy to have a discussion about it with anyone who's interested. I think we should get FOF on, involved with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, it sounds like getting FOF, because it would be nice to confirm if we are directing everything there, there's a great outreach opportunity there. And I certainly have not been pushing that as the best option for people. An option, but I didn't, so this is great to think about it as that being where we want to point and direct and do some outreach. So thank you.
Yeah, I can, oh, go ahead.
I would just be curious if people have any feelings in this group, just kind of off the top of their head, whether they think like another tool that's just email based would be useful as an additional place that's sort of centralized for Oregon, or maybe it's Oregon, Washington, I don't know. Yeah, and if so, like who would be the most appropriate organization to sort of hold that and administer it?
Yeah, the farm link seems like the job posting there for farm labor seems to make the most sense. The OCFSN is more like the service provider nonprofit agency, and I haven't talked to Shin about that, so I can also follow up with her and try to just add to that conversation. An email newsletter for job postings is, there's the management of the lists is, a really important part. And if it's lives somewhere online, then it's not a list management task for an organization. The one other thing is on the labor piece is I've been working with Logan over at OSU to put together a one pager on the impacts of the overtime bill for small farmers for labor costs. So that's in process right now. I'll be sharing it with the working group as it gets closer, but we're putting together, Oregon Farm Bureau has a pretty detailed overview of the law and how it will impact producers across the state. We're trying to put one together that's more focused on the smaller scale. There's some exemptions like the size, if you folks are using piece rate harvesters and that type of thing, there's some exemptions that we're going to get some case studies from more smaller scale blueberry farmers on how that would impact their operations. So I know that's a big piece that's going to start in 2023. So we'll have a resource on that. Cool. Nice. Any last pieces for the good of the order? And yeah, thank you all for taking the time. Really appreciate y'all being here. Cool. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody.